Man, don't you hate when you are texting or sending a text message? Maybe this could just be me, but there's a part of me that does not like that predictive text. You know, predictive text, when you're texting somebody a message and it's the keyboard is basically figuring out your next word. Have you ever misplaced a word because predictive text tried to predict what you were going to say next? Isn't that how we treat God, y'all? There's a part of us that likes to predict what he's going to do next based upon what we think is going to be next for our lives. Like if we're sitting there and we're saying, okay, God, I'm praying for this job. All right, so this person that is in the position that I want got fired or they quit or they retired. Oh man, this is from you. You allowed for them to leave that position so that way I can get it next, right? It's on me now. All I have to do is just apply for the job and I got it. But what happens when that predictive text, the way that we're trying to predict what God's going to do next, when it doesn't end up happening our way? Deep down inside of us, when we think that, when we try to predict of what God is going to do next, we always set ourselves up for potential disappointment. Because now we have an expectation that God, you did it for somebody else this way. Why didn't you do it for me? And that's when the devil can get in our ear and say, yeah, he did it for that person. And he loves all of you, right? That's what you believe. You believe that he loves you. So why would he treat you differently? Because he loves all of you. He should be treating all y'all the same, right? That's how doubt gets in our mind when what we think God is going to do next doesn't happen our way. There's a part of us that loses a little bit of faith when we feel as though God is not coming through for us the way we want him to come through for us. Can I encourage you that if he came through the way that we always want him to come through, we would not be in the position that we're in now? We would be worse off. Say, for instance, God blesses you that way with the job. If that person retires, that person is fired, that person resigns, and you get in that position, and that's the worst position of your life. Or what's worse, what if that position causes you your life because the stress, you weren't equipped to handle the stress that came with the job? Or if once you get in that position, they lay you off. See, we don't think of that. We think that we can figure out what God's going to do every single time. And sometimes we are on point. That's called a coincidence. We're not always going to try to be able to figure out what God's going to do next because God is not a God of doing it our way. He's a God of doing it his way. He has the plan. How can we argue with the plan there when we didn't come up with the plan? How can we ever argue with the creator when we're the creation? There's no way for us to argue with him about what he's going to do in our life because he works everything out for the good. And it's for the good of those that love him and to those that are called according to his purpose. God is a God of purpose. He doesn't just do things just to do things. Sometimes we do things just to do things. Sometimes we may say things just to say things. But God isn't like us. We are striving to be like him in our walk every single day when we die to ourselves, die to our beliefs, die to our agenda, die to the way we should handle things. We're submitting to him. He's not submitting to us. So whenever we're trying to predict what God's going to do next, just know that that expectation, there's a possibility for disappointment. And in your disappointment, then that's when discouragement and stress and worry and anxiety and doubt and fear, all those other things, those they're like cousins that come to a uninvited party. They just keep coming in. They're like those friends that aren't really your friends. They just come in and you're just like, when are you leaving? You invited them in. They came in because when you decided not to give it to God and give it to him and submit to his will and predict what he's going to do next. And he didn't answer it the way that you wanted him to answer it. That's when you set yourself up for failure. So know that just like technology fails, so does our plans when we don't include God in it. And the way to avoid that from happening is submitting to his will only. His way is the only way. I don't care what we say, what you say, or what anyone else has to say. It's God's way or no way.